Captain America Civil War was almost a very different movie, and wouldn't have included Iron Man, Spider-Man, or Black Panther. Instead, it would have been a continuation of the Winter Soldier storyline, and while it still would have featured Zemo as the main villain, it would have built up to the Madbomb at the end of the film, which turns ordinary people into zombies, forcing Cap into a moral conundrum, as he's forced to fight innocent civilians. However, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige's decision to pivot towards adapting the Civil War storyline ignited a literal civil war behind the scenes at Marvel Studios. So let's dive in and take a look at the battle within Marvel that would reshape the MCU, and also take a look at what could have been Captain America Civil War. Before we dive in, a huge shout out to this video's sponsor, Aura. Recently, major companies have faced high-profile data breaches, exposing the sensitive personal information of millions of customers, and raising concerns about personal information security. In today's digital age, your sensitive personal info is more at risk than ever, so if you haven't been safeguarding it, now's the time to start. One thing that really bothers me is when apps ask for way more access than they need, like a weather app wanting my location all the time, or access to my contacts. It makes me wonder how much of my data is being collected behind the scenes and potentially sold. Thankfully, Aura has us covered. They monitor your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points on the dark web and public court records, alerting you to any potential identity theft. Plus, they've got your back by providing up to $5 million in identity theft insurance in the event that your personal information is compromised. Aura also provides a range of features to keep you safe online, such as real-time alerts for data breaches, the ability to opt out of data brokers to prevent companies from selling your personal information, a password manager to help you create and store strong passwords, and much more. So don't leave yourself unprotected against data breaches. Visit aura.com/bulletsandblockbusters to start a free 2-week trial, which should be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is already exposed. The Winter Soldier ends with Bucky rescuing an unconscious Cap from drowning, before the film bookends with a post-credits scene of Bucky visiting his own memorial at the Smithsonian. For Captain America 3, writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, as well as directors Anthony and Joe Russo, intended to continue and resolve this storyline, with the payoff being that Cap and Bucky would ultimately reunite. The villain, just like in Civil War, would have been Zemo, and the film's MacGuffin was the Madbomb, which is a powerful mind control device that emits a sonic wave that drives people into a frenzied, uncontrollable rage. The Madbomb would then detonate in the third act, turning hordes of innocent civilians into berserkers. This would spark utter chaos, with people fighting one another in a violent and destructive riot that tears the city apart. In fact, it would have been similar to what happens in Kingsman and Batman Begins. This would have left Cap having to destroy it and reverse its effects on the angry mob of people attacking him. However, this also would have forced Cap into a difficult moral conundrum, because if innocent civilians are now the antagonists, how does he stop them without killing them? Additionally, it wouldn't just be regular civilians being affected by the Madbomb. Some of his team would have been affected too, like Sam Wilson and Natasha Romanoff, pitting them against Cap and adding an additional emotional component to the final battle. The film also would have carried over the grounded tone of Winter Soldier, as well as included the same political intrigue. However, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige felt that the idea wasn't big enough, and with the recent announcement that Warner Brothers was releasing Batman vs Superman around the same time as Captain America 3, it's possible that Feige wanted to beat DC at their own game, with an even bigger hero vs. hero blockbuster. As a result, he instructed the creative team to stop with the Madbomb storyline and do Civil War instead. However, producer Nate Moore protested, feeling that the MCU so far hadn't established many of the elements from the Civil War storyline in the comics, like the New Warriors and the Negative Zone, which is where captured non-registered heroes are sent as they wait their trial. Plus, some of the heroes that make up each team in the comics had yet to be introduced into the MCU. For his part, Feige didn't care, and pushed for the team to adapt the storyline, not copy it directly. Writer Stephen McFeely also had concerns, saying, well, that's a problem, an expensive problem, with his co-writer Christopher Marcus elaborating with, that means Robert Downey Jr., right? Meanwhile, in shock, director Joe Russo would say, oh, he just gave us $1 billion movie. Holy crap. Even though the film was going to be the third entry in the Captain America series, it not only felt like Avengers 2.5 with all the characters that would have to be in it, but its budget would have to be on par with the Avengers films as well. And this didn't sit right with Marvel's then New York-based creative committee, who were worried that a Captain America film wouldn't gross the same as an Avengers film, especially considering Age of Ultron cost more than its predecessor, yet earned less. For those unaware, at the time, Kevin Feige served as the public face of Marvel Studios, While Marvel Entertainment CEO Ike Perlmutter and his New York-based creative committee held significant control over the studio's decisions, including budgets, story direction, and overall creative oversight, often leading to clashes with Feige. It's rumored that both Ike Perlmutter and the creative committee played a major role in driving Edgar Wright off Ant-Man through their excessive meddling with his script. They were also a significant factor in Joss Whedon's turbulent experience on Avengers: Age of Ultron, and were key obstacles preventing Kevin Feige from pursuing standalone Black Widow and Black Panther films at the time. This time, they were telling Feige to scale down his vision for Civil War. Not only that, but the notoriously frugal Perlmutter didn't want to pay Downey to appear in the film, who not only wanted to be a major part of it, but also now commanded an enormous salary. Instead, Perlmutter ordered that Stark be written out of the script and replaced with the Hulk, who would lead one team while Cap would lead the other. However, it was out of the uncertainty of getting Downey that the idea to bring Black Panther into the film came about, as Feige and the writers felt that at least introducing T'Challa would bring a new, fresh element to the movie that would get audiences excited. As negotiations with Downey dragged on, New York also balked at the idea of Captain America and Iron Man fighting each other at the end of the film. Instead, they insisted that the Avengers unite to take on Zemo and the super soldiers at the Hydra base in Siberia. This would be the last straw for the Russos, who threatened to quit, saying, "There's nothing interesting about that film. We're not here to make that movie. We're not interested in telling another superhero story, so we're out the door if that's the direction you want to go." The same went for Kevin Feige, who went straight to Disney CEO Bob Iger and threatened to quit if Perlmutter didn't get out of the way. Realizing what they had in Feige, Iger moved New York off the movie, gave Feige full control over Marvel Studios, and changed it so that Feige would now report directly to Disney Studios chief Alan Horn. At the same time, Sony was at a loss over what to do with Spider-Man, after The Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperformed at the box office, scuttling their plans for a Sinister Six film and larger Spider-Man cinematic universe. As Sony watched Marvel release hit after hit, Sony's Amy Pascal invited Kevin Feige to her office, and while eating a sandwich, expressed her strong desire to have Feige be more directly involved creatively in making The Amazing Spider-Man 3. However, Feige stopped her mid-sentence and told her he wasn't interested, telling her, "Why don't you just let us do it?" Shocked and upset, Pascal threw her sandwich at him before throwing him out of her office. But the more she started to think it through, the more she realized he was right. Yet, as the two sides began to negotiate, talks eventually broke down, as the writers were forced to pivot and change Tony traveling to Queens to recruit Peter Parker to Tony going to San Francisco to recruit Scott Lang, as Lang watches his daughter play soccer. Eventually, Marvel and Sony would come to terms, opening the door for Spider-Man to appear in Civil War, as Ant-Man would be rewritten to join Team Cap. However, when it came time to casting, both studios failed to see eye to eye on which actor they wanted to play Peter Parker. Marvel wanted to cast someone who actually looked like they were in high school, in order to differentiate the new version of the character from previous portrayals, which allegedly made Sony nervous. Tom Holland was the Russo brothers' top choice, but Sony was reluctant, forcing the Russos to bring Holland back for numerous auditions in their relentless pursuit of jamming the young actor down Sony's throat, as the situation allegedly came down to a fight. Ultimately, the casting choices came down to Holland and Charlie Rowe, both screen testing against Downey. However, after Holland screen tested opposite Chris Evans, he emerged as the favorite, and finally landed the role. However, Holland's problems weren't over. When he showed up to set to film the scene where Downey recruits him, he was shocked to learn it had been significantly cut down, leading Downey to ask, where did all the kids' lines go? The Russos then tried to explain to Downey that the script had become too long, and they couldn't spend time on the full scene as it was originally written. Downey, however, insisted that the Russos shoot the entire scene, telling them they could always trim it down later, as he believed it was better for the Russos to have the full scene on film just in case they changed their minds. And in the end, they did. Spider-Man also nearly wore the Iron Spidey suit as well, considering in the film he's gifted his suit from Iron Man. And while the practical suit Tom Holland wore on set looked closer to Tobey Maguire's suit with the raised webbing, it would ultimately be replaced entirely with CGI for a more classic look. Ant-Man, which came out just prior to Civil War, featured a post-credits scene where Hank Pym reveals the Wasp suit to his daughter Hope. The original plan was for the Wasp to make her debut in Civil War, and while her appearance would have been brief, taking place during the airport fight, the filmmakers worried that not only was the movie already too crowded with other characters, but they felt that audiences hadn't really gotten to know Hope as the Wasp yet, and so decided to save her superhero debut for Ant-Man 2. Additionally, while Thaddeus Ross plays a key role in the film, informing the Avengers that the United Nations is preparing to establish a UN panel to oversee and control the team, the filmmakers also considered including Ross's alter ego, the Red Hulk, in the film as well. However, similar to the Wasp, the filmmakers felt that Ross and how he came to be the Red Hulk would need a proper backstory, and they couldn't fit that in given the already crowded nature of the film. Plus, they felt that if you drop a Hulk into the movie, you have to treat him like a weapon of mass destruction. When Civil War was finally released, it proved to be a critical and box office hit, grossing over $1 billion, with the unresolved fallout between Stark and Cap leaving leaving dramatic possibilities open for future films, solidifying the movie's impact on the MCU. More importantly, Civil War's success strengthened Kevin Feige's position within Marvel Studios and solidified Disney's trust in him. The bold gamble of pitting their two biggest heroes against each other had paid off in spades, and with Disney now fully on board with him, Feige and his creative team pitched an even riskier idea for the next phase, killing off half their characters. This time, Disney didn't hesitate to greenlight the ambitious plan, setting the stage for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Bullets and Blockbusters for more great content.